broken news desk. I hadn't done a broken news segment in a while, not because there hasn't been a bunch of broken news to cover, but I decided to do this broken news segment today, mainly because I'd stumbled upon a news segment that was music related, so I was going to put it on this channel as opposed to the other broken news segments that I will probably start doing on the other channel. So the reason I wanted to do this broken news segment today concerns Hotel California. I've been working on a list of ballads, and this time I segmented that list into mostly story ballads instead of like love ballads, and I've got a list of torch songs that's coming out. And I put Hotel California, spoiler alert for the ballads list, I put Hotel California on this list. Well, according to the AP, there's a trial going on because of what happened with Hotel California. So here's what happened. Don Henley has had a bunch of these lyrics on the original notepads and stuff for a long time. And let me kind of give you the story because it's kind of convoluted. So this rare book dealer named Glenn Horowitz, former Rock and Roll Hall of Fame curator Greg Incardi, and memorabilia seller Edward Kosinski are charged with conspiring to own and try to sell the manuscripts of Hotel California and other Eagles hits without the right to do so. They pled not guilty. So the way this started was, because there's over 80 pages of draft lyrics from that record. And it's got, there's some other notes and whatever. So what happened is that much of according to the AP, much of this case turns on the Eagles' interaction with Ed Sanders, who was a writer who also co-founded the 1960 culture rock band The Fugs. The story goes that that Sanders somehow got the documents, and the way that worked was that so Don Henley was apparently working with a biographer. He said he never gave and the biographer, I guess, had access to the lyrics. Don is saying that he never gave the biographer the lyrics. The biographer somehow got the lyrics to Sanders. Sanders told Horowitz in 2005 while he was working on the Eagles book, and like I say, he was sent some papers, whatever papers he wanted from Henley's Malibu home. This is according to the indictment. And then Kosinski's business offered some of the pages at auction in 2012. There's a point where Henley buys some of the pages back, and then somebody lists Sotheby's. Sotheby's listed the Hotel California song listed at 2016 auction and withdrew them because there was some question of how they got the documents. Don Henley bought some of the draft lyrics privately from this company called Gotta Have It in 2012 for a little over $8,000, and then he starts filing police reports to figure out where the other documents are. So the DA works with Henley's legal team. They figure out that Kosinski and the rest of this crew have the papers, which is why we're in court today. The interesting part about that case is that they're going to try, if Don Henley takes a stand, which he may, they're going to try to probe Don Henley's memory to say, do you remember the chain of custody on these documents? Ultimately, they're going to have to prove how the documents were stolen. And these three guys, they didn't own the documents. They didn't own the original draft lyrics to the entire album of Hotel California. they got them from this other dude, whether they paid for them or not. But then they try to represent to a lot of auction houses, oh no, we own these. And I will say I think Henley's first mistake was not filing the reports earlier and just paying for some of the lyrics earlier on. But then once and Sotheby's kind of did him a solid on this one. Once Sotheby's was like, well, hey, we don't know where you got this from because we see that it says Don Henley on here. We see his signature. We kind of know a little bit of the history about the documents. You don't own these, so you can't sell them. So it turned into a thing. Those dudes are probably going to get convicted, which will be different than the other case we're going to talk about after this one. Because there's pretty much a fairly stable chain of custody, and they didn't snitch on themselves. They basically got snitched out by Sotheby's. The other story that I want to talk about in Broken News today is the Jam Master Jay trial, which has been going on since January. And the crazy thing about that trial is that I've read a bunch of different stories on it, but I didn't want to start talking about it until after the trial started because I wanted to wait for a lot of the details to come out. Some stories talk about that one of the guys that shot him was either a childhood friend or a distant relative of Jay Mizell, also known as Jam Master Jay. The basic story that one of the guys wounded in the studio tells is that these two dudes come in and they give him a handshake, they give him a five, whatever, and they just shot Jay. And the reason that they shot Jay was over a drug deal that either Jay reneged on or shorted him on or whatever, which is a contrast from Jay's public image. The funny thing about Run DMC back in the day was Reverend Rum was the rough boy, right? Reverend Rum was the guy that was out partying and like he was the known drug dealer of the three of them. No, like Jay was the squeaky clean one. The other two were always seen as the kind of dudes that were out there doing stuff. And then because there's a big thing about how at the end of their careers, that's how you get Reverend Run. Run finds God and becomes a ordained minister, and then they have a reality show. DMC ends up going through a lot of mental stuff, and his story is very interesting about how he overcame a lot of his mental stuff and is a much more together person today than he was even back in the day. Jay apparently became a drug dealer. I don't know, but that's what everybody's saying. And like I said, it's just a contrast from his squeaky clean image. But nobody deserves to get gunned down in the studio, whether it's over a drug dealer or anything like that. But here's why it took so long for the story to come out. Because Jam Master Jay was killed almost 15 years ago. Because the shooting happened October 30th of 2002, and this guy named, let me read what his name is. Because they said Carl Jordan Jr. is the shooter. Uriel Rincon is the witness. So basically what happened is Rincon doesn't say anything until 2017, mostly because of no snitching rule. He was just like, I'm not going to snitch. And even though he was wounded in the attack. And then finally he's just like, somebody needs to know about this because his murder just can't go unsolved. He finally has a change of heart. And he talks. The defense is saying that there isn't a whole bunch of real evidence in this case. We probably won't know that until, like, I haven't been watching that trial real hard because there's just so many other musical events that are happening, and I haven't been following a lot of the musical trials lately. Some of the other trials, like the Ed Sheeran trial, was pretty easy to follow because it was just like, did you play that? Well, yeah. Were you inspired by this other thing? Well, no. Have you heard it? Well, yeah, after I wrote it. I done. Or dudes just trying to profit off Ed Sheeran because they're like, oh, our stuff kind of sounds similar and we know Ed'll pay up. This is a whole thing which is like, this story was never going to get solved. The crime was just going to go on for years and years and years because people that knew or other people in the studio just weren't going to say who did it. So it's kind of sad. I feel bad for Jam Master Jay. Rest in peace, Jam Master Jay. Hopefully they convict these two dudes if these are the two dudes that did it. And, his family will get some justice. But that's our broken news for February 20th, 2024. We don't try to be first to your broken news. We try to be right, and we just try to tell you what happened. So, we do broken news on the other channel, be the same thing. We're not trying to get to the story first. We're trying to get the story last when all the details come out. So, thank you for tuning in to this edition of Broken News. We'll see you in the next edition, which will hopefully not be as far between as the last Broken News. Good night.